"2020 marks the historic 100-year anniversary of the women's right to vote, the passage of the 19th Constitutional Amendment. I'm Jan Sanders, and I'll be taking you inside some of the Pasadena organizations that have been instrumental in promoting women's progress throughout these years. Certainly, reproductive rights and women's suffrage go hand in hand, and the Planned Parenthood of Pasadena and San Gabriel Valley has been at the forefront of providing women and men with vital health care services. Come join me as we take a look. We're here with Jackie at the Pasadena Health Center of Planned Parenthood to take us on a tour and show us what this facility does and how you deal with your patients.
Yes.
Right now, we're in the waiting room, which looks extremely pleasant and welcoming. Tell us a little bit about where we are.
This is our main entrance to this health center here. We try to create a warm and safe environment here with us. So we tailored the colors, the pictures, the furniture, just to make it a welcoming and warm environment for people.
Well, you've certainly achieved that. Do you have a lot of patients who come through this facility?
Yes, this particular facility, we can see up to 100 patients a day.
Wow.
But as Planned Parenthood, our 4 health centers that we have, we see about 65,000 patients a year.
So your rate of getting people through the system must be pretty high.
Yes.
If you're seeing 100 people a day.
Yes.
I don't think my doctor sees 100 people a day.
They probably don't. We average about 60 minutes per visit here.
And people think that this is just for young women. Is that true?
No, we see all types of people here. It doesn't have to be just women, men, women, anyone here.
So men come to this facility?
Yes.
You do, of course, all the healthcare pieces of it. Yes. Are there other things that happen here?
We do STD testing, mammograms, colposcopies, birth control, exams. We do all of that here.
That's terrific. Yeah. So I'm eager to see what the rest of the facility looks like.
Yes.
You want to take us forward?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Tell us a little bit about what happens here.
Yeah, so this is the hallway where our patients start their visit. They either go into a counseling room or an exam room.
So these are the counseling rooms here?
Yes.
They seem very private.
They are. They're meant for private conversations with our patients, either one-on-one with our clinicians or our medical assistants. And right around here, this is where we have our clinician station area. So this is their final stop before their visit is completely over. At this station, patients are able to get 13 months of birth control at no cost. We're also able to give treatments and a care package that can include condoms in the morning after pill, resources, follow-up appointments, anything that they may need before they leave the health center.
Now we've moved to a completely separate facility here at the Health Services Center, this one dedicated mostly to mammograms. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yes, we're the only affiliate here in California that provides mammograms on site, and very few in the nation that do.
Some of it for cancer screening?
Absolutely. They're all for cancer screening here at Planned Parenthood in Pasadena. We provide them once a month.
So we've moved now to a wonderful spot here at your facility. Tell us about where we are.
So we're in front of our call center here at Planned Parenthood and also our care team department.
So call center, what does that mean?
That means we take all incoming calls for just appointments or education or just counseling resources.
Just from here in Pasadena?
Just from Pasadena.
Okay.
We take over 100,000 calls a year.
100,000 calls a year?
Yes.
So for things like appointments or information, do they call here to get their test results?
They do as well.
That's wonderful. So it's a very, very busy place. How many people working here?
About 14 people right now. We're looking to expand that amount as well.
So 14 people all the time?
All the time, yes.
6 days a week, 7 days a week?
6 days a week.
That's marvelous. Good for you. You're really taking care of us here in Southern California. We're here today with Sheri Bonner, who is the president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Pasadena San Gabriel Valley, which is a huge organization and has done wonderful things for our region. So let's talk a little bit about the organization and how you fit in and what it's all about.
Well, thank you, Jan, and what a great entree to talk about the organization that I love so much and have been involved with for 30 years. But Planned Parenthood Pasadena and San Gabriel Valley covers most of the San Gabriel Valley and northeastern Los Angeles to provide reproductive health care. And we're one of the most sought after and very well trusted organizations in, what can be a sensitive area for people in terms of their health care.
Absolutely.
Certainly contraception is something that we do a lot of, and to ensure that, people can control their families and their family size.
Yeah, have a better control of their whole life. It's interesting because this all sort of came out of the whole women's rights issues, women getting the vote, women really standing up and becoming their own. But my understanding is that the Pasadena San Gabriel Valley agency here has been in the area for a very long time.
So more than 85 years.
Wow.
Founded in 1933, and really for the purpose of ensuring that women who wouldn't have access, low-income women, could get access to contraception and sex education. And started by a group of, very well-known women in the community. Our medical director saw it as her passion, that we had a big migrant community in the area. And then during the Depression, we had people coming from, the Dust Bowl, people desperate to find work. And a lot of the publicly funded health centers and clinics just went away in the Depression. And Planned Parenthood stepped in to make sure that women had that bodily, agency to be able to determine and try to help have the number of children that they wanted. Because at that time, women were having 10, 12 children, and it was really difficult during the Depression to keep all those mouths fed. So we had some very forward-looking, women in this community who said, we're going to step in and be of service.
Well, I think it really speaks well for the community. If you just look around at all of the different organizations and causes that have been driven forward by women in Pasadena and the San Gabriel Valley, it's really pretty overwhelming. We think of things like Mother's Day Out and certainly Planned Parenthood, the Alliance. There are just all kinds of things that have begun with forward-thinking women.
Yeah, we are one of the oldest Planned Parenthood affiliates in the country. So I think that says a lot to your point about how much people cared about people living here in Pasadena. And, I would just go back, if I were to tie this more to, what we're talking about, which is the 19th Amendment, is that the first Planned Parenthood Health Center was started in Brooklyn. And it was right around the time that the suffragette movement was getting started, and Planned Parenthood
1920 span.
Exactly,
Lots of
right.
things bubbled up then.
Yes, right in that time period. And when we think about Planned Parenthood's roots, it was started by clergy members. So it was started by ministers who were, having these, very private conversations with their congregants, and women were telling them what their concerns were and what their needs were. And a lot of it was access to contraception or in access to abortion services as well. So the clergy, saw the plight of their parishioners and decided to help and start with connecting women to education and care.
Well, and there's a certain irony in that, because I know you have a very strong advocacy arm for the organization as a whole. And I also know that you're bringing up the next generation of people, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But the idea that it was really begun at the behest of the clergy says a lot about what you're trying to do. I think that's amazing. Talk to us a little bit about the whole advocacy issue.
Yeah, well, part of our mission is to ensure that people have access. Our goal is really that anyone has access to health care, and specifically for us, it's reproductive health care. Although I will say to you that, to your point about the health that we provide, we do lots of screening. We do blood pressure screenings, and we do, work with, we do weight checks, and we do sugars checks, and we do lots of things that then we can refer people to other organizations in the community, but they're typically people for whom this is their first independent healthcare visit.
that's true.
It's our job to, we make sure the whole person is healthy. Like, that's what we are looking for. And so if we can't help them when they're in the health center, we have a really warm handoff to other services. And I think we were just talking about the fact that recently we have added care for transgender patients, so hormonal services for people who are transgender and more LGBTQ sensitive services. So we feel like we have a lot to do with the health of our community and keeping people in our communities healthy.
Well, you really do. And, half of the community is women.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about women's health, which, as you have made the point more than once, is not just reproductive health, it's women's health. So we need to think about that in a little bit broader context, I think.
Yeah, and you were asking about advocacy, and that's
Right.
we have three legs to our stool. One is providing health care, the second is providing education and informing people, and then the third is making sure that people have access. And this is a political issue right now, and it's not just the abortion issue, but it's also contraception and prevention, and that's really who we are, is prevention. And when that's a political football as well, we have to ensure that these rights are protected so people can get into our health centers regardless of their zip code or their income.
Exactly. And that access piece, I think, is what really speaks to me, because, as you know, I spent my whole life in public libraries, and that's all about access too. Right. When I started in the field, we were not that far away from black-only libraries, and various things like that. So the whole concept of access for everybody and free access for everybody certainly is something as sensitive and as personal as healthcare. Right. Just really has to be carried forward. It's not. Your organization is not a scary organization. You're really carrying that banner for all of us.
Right, that's right. And that's why we're so tied to the 19th Amendment and women's rights and bodily autonomy.
Well, our voice. What is our voice as women? What can we do? What can we say? It's really important.
So that's the advocacy piece. We also have another corporation that we formed for the purpose of really doing more political work, and that's more election work. Sure. And at the end of the day, if this were just what it is, which is healthcare, we wouldn't need a separate political organization.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
But it doesn't work that way. So that's why we 4 years ago formed this other corporation, because if we don't have the laws and legislation to protect us, then if you don't have access, you don't have health care.
That's right.
So so that's the work.
And if you don't have the laws, you need an organization to drive that,
and that's what we
and
do.
to make that happen.
That's what we do.
And you can't do it with your day-to-day kind of work. It needs a separate arm, a separate avenue.
We're very interested in the next generation and wanting to ensure that young people understand their role in their communities and their activism to ensure that they have the lives and the rights that they want and deserve, and sort of know they like young people today, they have a lot more exposure to different people and ideas and different different sexualities, and so they have high expectations of what they want their lives to be like.
Well, they do, and like all of us when we were that age, we assume that the way it is the way it's always been, and the way that we can benefit from.
Right.
And there may be other things that we can do. Maybe laws can be changed.
Yes.
Maybe things can come to the fore that hadn't been there before. The idea that you're using your peer-to-peer
peer advocates
program to sort of just let young people know what's out there.
Yeah.
What they should be aware of, what they need to be attendant to, so that those rights just don't go away. Because I think there is a tendency to just assume that that's already taken care of. We don't need to fight that anymore. We don't need to have that conversation anymore. This is the 21st century, so let's move it. But they need to know.
And this program, there are over 50 young people who have gone through this program. It's a few years old. It's all high school students, and they're public and private high schools both. And their job over the course of the year that they are a peer advocate is to learn about sexuality. It's to, become someone who understands can not hold those myths in their head that are incorrect, but know the facts. We don't teach this in schools in the way that we should. So, we want, young people want to be healthy, and they don't want unplanned pregnancies, both. So what this program does is it helps them to learn the facts, and then importantly, they take on a project during the year that then they become activists, whether it's because eventually we want them to advocate in their communities for the things that are important to them. And for us, it's reproductive rights and health. So they'll have a project during the year. One of the projects they did was, I think it was right here in the PUSD, where it was difficult to find if a student felt like they were being harassed. What do I do? How do I report that?
Yeah.
So
who do I trust enough to take that?
Yes. And so what these advocates did, these peer advocates, high school students, was they went to principals, they went to the school board, and they found a way to have it so it's published and it's accessible through the website. So they, these are the kinds of things that they do to a high schooler going before a school board. Imagine.
That's pretty heavy.
But if you've done it once, think how that builds your confidence.
Well, no kidding. It's great to have people in the peer advocacy group who are students themselves, because obviously the acceptance level is much, much higher, and the comfort level must be better as well. So how do you recruit these students?
We now have a pretty good network through the schools.
I bet you do.
And a lot of the teachers and principals at the different schools are interested because they see the growth in the students and the confidence building. And a lot of what happens in that age group is just being more confident about yourself. And
figuring yourself out. What a big job.
And at the core of what we're talking about is relationship navigation, right?
Sure.
So, part of the curriculum is anti-bullying. Consent. What is consent in a relationship? Yeah. These are the kinds of things. We're talking more about reproductive health, but really it's about relationships. And I think that's something that can either, impact your confidence negatively or positively.
Well, I think that's a really high cliff for young people to scale anyway, to think, because they're not exactly sure who they are and where they're headed. And then to couple that with other people in a relationship, it's really, really hard.
It's hard.
So having a peer, as you say, another navigator who can help you, somebody kind of guide you through the path, I think that's really terrific.
Yeah. Expanding our health centers, and we're building one right now in Baldwin Park, which we're really excited about, being a part of that community and what their needs are.
Sure.
And we plan to start another peer advocates program in Baldwin Park. So we're thinking we want to expand it. We think it does a lot of great work, both for young people while they're going through the program, but then afterwards in terms of
you're building such a base.
Yes. Right.
Such a wonderful base.
Right, knowing how to phone bank and knock doors, and that's how community activism, that's how you get change.
Right. That's grassroots. That's how Obama did it, and everybody else does it. The community involvement. Mm-hmm. So, excuse me. So your organization really covers quite a wide geographic area.
The parameters are geographically would be going east to Glendora, and then south we're in Alhambra, and like I said, Baldwin Park, and then we're also in Eagle Rock right now, and then looking to build a new health center in Highland Park, and eventually Glendale is what we'd like to do. So we're continuing to expand access, because you know, what we know, and there's a study that was done recently by Harvard and Tufts that said when Planned Parenthood is in a community, the dropout rate declines by 16%.
That's a big number.
Right? And it makes sense when you think that there
a lot of sense.
is an organization that's known to your community and trusted, that you can go to have good health and prevent things from happening that you don't want to have happen, like an unplanned pregnancy or an STD.
Right.
And then we talked a little about the relationship issues. So having that access right in your community helps young people stay in school.
Well, it's got to be something that is not only good for the students, but good for the school as a whole, and good for the community as a whole. So it's a win-win, however you slice it.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Yeah. And 86 years, you say. I can't get that out of my head. 86 years you folks have been here working on this.
A long time. And, you know, just continuing to expand. We're looking to add behavioral health services. There's a lot we're doing. Telehealth, we'd really like to be able to
that would be exciting.
Yeah, see patients in a way that they don't have to come in every time. And so we're piloting that this next year too. So anything we can do to meet the needs of our community, that's what we're here for.
That's a big assignment.
Yeah.
It's a really big assignment. But you have good buy-in from the communities through your board members and those kinds of things, right? You talked a little bit about the ladies who sort of set it all up 86 years ago and got the whole ball rolling through the clergy and that kind of thing. But you still involve community a great deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you know, I think what's important about getting started with the highest society women, it just shows you the panache that Planned Parenthood had in the community to get started. But yeah, we're involved with partnerships with lots of community organizations to, again, to make sure we have our finger on the pulse and we know where we're needed.
Well, and what we're trying to do with this series is, of course, to look at the role of women, how it has grown, how it has expanded, how it is elevated since we got the vote in 1920. And certainly this is one organization that shows that to very good example. So thank you. Thank you for the work you've done. Thank you for the light you have brought to us. Thank you for all you have done, not just for Pasadena, but the whole San Gabriel Valley. We're proud to have you here and happy to have you as a woman worker here, helping us all be better citizens in the San Gabriel Valley. Thank you so much. And thanks for your time, Sheri.
It's my absolute pleasure and my love. Thank you, Jan.
You bet.